Hello and welcome back to the Artisfy Codecast. So today we're going to be going over the switch.js library again. We're going to be going through a few more tests, and then we're going to review some of the old tests for the old library, and then we're going to maybe build some new functionality for a new library. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, let's just quickly review these tests. So the switch library allows us to pop up this sidebar, auto close it if you click elsewhere, or close it when you click this close button. Here, this one doesn't auto close, but you can close it like that. This is a dialog box, or an example of a dialog box. If you click outside of it, it closes, or if you click the close button. This one doesn't auto close, and then this is a drop down, this is a drop down. This is like a more details panel that's going to stay open no matter what, so it's not going to auto close. And then you have to click the close button. And then this one is just going to toggle everything at once. Okay, so now I added a few things to our to-do. So the first thing is I just want to quickly label all the tests, which I think should just require maybe wrapping all of the pages in a new element, or yeah, so I could wrap all the pages in a new element and then have the label be right below it. That seems like or right above it. That seems like a pretty good solution. The other solution would be to put it inside the page but position it absolutely below it. And that seems like maybe it'll require less effort, but not be, I don't know. Maybe it's okay because it's less markup. So I guess, yeah, I guess we can do that. Okay, so let's do page label. And if we don't like this, we can always go back and wrap all the pages. And for this one, we're going to say sidebar and auto off. Right? Or we can say auto close. Okay, so let's refresh this. Now we got that there. The page label should be positioned absolute, and it should be from the bottom, and probably centered. So let's do the trick we learned last time where we do left 50%, and then, oh, but we need to know the width of it for that. So yeah, actually for this we can just do width 100% and then text align center. So if we do that, oh, I think, do I have an overflow on this? I do, I have an overflow hidden, and the reason I have that is to not show the sidebar if it's off the screen. Okay, so we're going to have to wrap it all in an element, all the pages in another element. So let's do like page container. The reason I don't want to call it like test or something like that is we have, I don't know, we have multiple tests in some of these. I don't know. Page container works though. So now we're going to put page label down here, and now we don't have to position it absolutely. It's going to be with 100% automatically, and we can have the color be white, and we'll just add like a text shadow, a small text shadow of like 1px and something like that. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. That's not too bad. Let's make it bold. Font, weight, bold, and let's give it a little bit more margin on the bottom. Yeah, so margin bottom, and let's just say like 20 px. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We can capitalize this. let's paste this everywhere. And then let's get the page container. And then we'll put this stuff, we'll indent this stuff. Okay. And the last one. Okay, so that should work. That's awesome. Now we have sidebar with auto close, sidebar like without auto close. Then we have the dialog, auto close, the dialog. Let's say without auto close, and then we've got the drop down menu, and then we've got the more details. We'll just say persistent, and then we'll say toggle all. Okay, so now we've got them all labeled. That feels pretty good. We can give the body a little bit of space on the bottom. Just so that people can, I don't know, scroll down if they want, just to like have more room to see all the tests. Okay, cool. So that all works, and it looks good. Let's quickly review the old tests that we have for the old switch. So we have switch original, this file. In 1 second, I'm going to be right back. Okay, so now we're going to open up the switch original, and we don't have the switch original test, so let's go down here. We're searching for switch original.js, which looks like, sorry. Okay, so I think what I need to do here is just like that. And let's just make sure I'm doing the same thing here. No, so here, I search for it. I don't know, let's try this. Okay, it works. I'm curious why that works. And this works like this with the slash in front. And it's because I opened this up as a file. Okay. So we want to open this up using the server so that we get the auto reloading. And then we can put the slash back in. Okay, cool. So this was the original tests. These were the original tests. You can see I've already been through this, but I just want to make, like, what if there's a case here that I didn't cover in the new tests? Because the new tests are more geared towards like actual interface elements, but I didn't like make sure I was exhaustive in the types of things I was testing. Okay, so here we have, oh geez, is it not working? Cannot read parent node of undefined. Okay, so let's fix these tests first, because you know, even though this is an old library, I probably won't go back to it. I do want it to work. if only because, in the future, I might be like, oh, there were some things that were better about this library. Let me just test it out and see if, that's true or not. And if it is, then I can, see how I did it and, test and fiddle around with it. So here, if we're not including the current element, then lm should equal lm.parent node. And it's saying that there's an issue here because lm doesn't have a parent node. So let's go into the switch original code. Let's search for get parents. I think this is the only place I'm calling it. Yep. So if I think this is okay. This is not pause. So let's click here. Okay. So now lm is undefined, and it's because I thought I fixed this. Okay. I guess I did not. Okay, so we're going to go into DOM utilities. We're going to get this argument, and so before we were including the current element by default, so I just want to leave that functionality here. So for this, we'll just say get parents, and then like that, and the lm is going to be the target element. The selector is going to be this, and include current element is going to be true. And then let's just cut this out of there and replace that with that. Okay, so now if we refresh, our toggle works. Okay, so let's go through the tests. So this is a simple toggle. The W is how we define the widget. W-AA names the widget. The active class option is equivalent to the custom switch name that we have in our other library. And we're disabling auto deactivate for the AAA. So if we click outside of the widget, it should automatically deactivate. So let's trigger. You can see here it's a toggle action. So if we click again, it's going to toggle. Also, as I just mentioned, if I click outside of it, oh wait, sorry. We're disabling auto deactivate for AAA. So if we click outside of it, it should not auto deactivate. Triggering it should be the only way to toggle it. Okay, so that works okay. And I think we're covering enough functionality in the original switch code for that case. This one, we're toggling it again. We're disabling auto deactivate again. I think we're just the difference here is we're putting the trigger inside of it. And this purple thing, let's just see what it is real quick. The purple thing is just an area inside of the widget to make it, to just like show you that there's something inside of it, I think. Okay, so we're triggering it from inside of it, and there's no auto deactivate. Now we're going to trigger it from inside of it. There is going to be auto deactivate, but there's also a prevent element here. So if we click on this prevent element, it's not going to auto deactivate it. So we didn't cover this case really. Most of the time, the prevent element or the stop element in our new switch library is behind the trigger element, but I think I'm pretty satisfied with the test that this case would be covered too. Okay, so prevent on widget, toggle inside widget with auto deactivate. So this means if you click the trigger and then you click outside of the widget, it's going to disable. But if you click the trigger and then you click inside the widget, it's not going to auto deactivate. Whereas this one will auto deactivate if you click inside the widget after it's been activated. Okay, and you can see for most of these, I'm also testing a custom class here. Okay. So now with this one, we have the prevent element inside the toggle element with auto deactivate. So we can toggle it. If we click outside, it's going to auto deactivate. If we put it up again, but we click on the prevent and the prevent is inside of the trigger, it's not going to deactivate. Okay, and this is another case I don't think we've covered in these tests, but again, I'm pretty satisfied with these tests based on what we've seen over here so far. I would love to rebuild all of these tests for the switch library, but it's not a huge high priority right now. Okay, so now we have the trigger element inside the prevent. That works too. And then you click the prevent, it doesn't close, but if you click outside of it, it's going to auto deactivate. Trigger element inside a trigger element, no auto deactivate. So this means the first one should be the one that takes precedence. So toggling should toggle it on, deactivate should never fire. So we do that and it works. But if I toggle it on and click on this deactivate trigger, it's also going to close. And if I click outside of both of them, it's not going to close because there's no auto deactivate. We're disabling the auto deactivate. Okay, now prevent on body with auto deactivate. So for this widget, I have a prevent element on the entire body, the entire page. So if I trigger it on and I click outside, it's gonna act exactly like the prevent auto deactivate, except here we don't have an auto deactivate. We're not disabling auto deactivate, but putting the prevent element on the body does exactly the same thing. Okay. Simple deactivate, no auto deactivate. Oh, okay, so yep. So we need to refresh the page in order to see that again. So it's activated to start out with. We have a trigger that deactivates, and that's all it does. We have, similarly, one that's not activated yet, and all we have is the ability to activate it, and there's no auto deactivate, so we can only turn it on, and we can never turn it off. Multiple widgets on the same element. So we did do multiple triggers in our example and multiple custom names, but I don't know if we ever did multiple widgets on the same element. So I think that's a worthwhile test that we could incorporate. Let's put it, let's use like our simple example. And let's call it like multiple switches. Look at code to test. And this is just because I don't want to deal with hiding and showing things right now. So I'm going to have like multiple switch, I don't know, I guess example switch name 1, and we don't have to have auto or anything here. And then let's just have example switch 2 and example switch 3. And then let's say data switch actions. I guess we'll copy all of these. And let's say toggle, toggle, toggle. Okay, so now if we reload this, we inspect this, we should see on the page data switched on property set to these 3 example switches once we click this button. And we got the data switched on with example switch name 1, example switch name 2, and example switch name 3. Perfect. Okay, so let's get back to the tests. Multiple widgets on different elements. Again, this is something I could test, but I'm not going to. I'm pretty convinced that our switch library is working right now. And then multiple widgets on different elements. So these are different, or this is the same switch being activated on multiple widgets. Okay, and then this is if you have like a prevent element, but you don't actually specify a widget name. I'm just going to have that fail silently in our switch, which I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah, but I'm not going to test it because even if it doesn't fail silently, I don't even care. At this point, I just want to finish this library. You know, I want to make it a more fully fledged library later, but I'm a little bit tired with this library right now, and I just kind of want to move on and start developing Artisfy as quickly as I possibly can, because a lot of people are excited about it, and you know, they want me to get it out there. And the whole point of developing these libraries is for Artisfy, not, you know, to release it open source, even though that's something eventually I would love to do. Okay, so we can say like we added labels, fixed old Widget.js tests, and we did something else. Oh yeah, added one more switch.js test. Okay, cool. So the next thing is we want to, we review the old tests and we label the old tests. Let's test when library. So actually I want this HTML open, and I want this open. Okay, so we're exporting when, and this is the main code. So I think what I want to do is do like switches, import switches from this, and let's capitalize this, I guess, and that will refresh. And now if I type in switches, oh, because it's still going to be limited to this file. Okay. Got it. Okay, so that's interesting. I thought, oh, I think what I would need to do is like import all, like I think it's as switches, but the other option is to just have a default export, which I think can be this object. Okay. So now let's see what switches is. So now we've got is on, turn off, turn on, toggle, and when. And I want when okay, perfect. Okay, so now we have the when function, and so what I really want to see is if our object builder works. So we want to pass in this stuff. So switch name, let's just have that be a switch name, and callback, let's just have that be like a function, a random function, and let's not pass in these. And then let's also, so I wish there was a way to expose this all callbacks. I guess temporarily I could just set it on the window. Oops. Okay, so let's call that, and then we have our callbacks. What happened? Okay, so what we want is we want an object that starts with, okay, actually let's refresh real quick. And let's not name this exactly the same as that. Okay, so now what we want is to get back an object that has like 3 levels of data, and the first one should be the switch name. So it should have a key. It should have a key of example switch name, and then the next one should be any-1, and then the next key should be any-2 because we're not passing in, remember, the action or the element for those. And then the next one should be the callback. And let's just fill this callback with a simple console log, just so we can like see it in there. Okay, so we got all callbacks. We've got this object. This is a good sign, with the first key being set to example switch name, the next key being set to any-1, and the next key being set to any-2, and then we have a function with console log 123 in it. Perfect. Okay, and I'm going to make this developer tool a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. Okay, so that's awesome. What happens if we pass in switch name, you know, like example, switch name, or like, I don't know, we can just do dog, right? And then let's do the action. So sorry, I forgot what these are called. Action type is going to be on, and I don't know, the element, we can just pick a random element, right? It doesn't even have to be one with a switches on it, because we can listen for you know, something that doesn't have the switches on it. So we're just going to use the body for that. And by the way, if you didn't know, in the Chrome console you can put the $0 in order to reference the element you have selected in the elements panel. Okay, so we'll do that, and then let's look at all callbacks. So now we should have 2, one with dog, one with example switch name, and dog has on, then on has this body element, and I wonder, okay, wait, and then, yeah, and then we have console log 1, 2, 3. So if I do example callbacks, and then I do dog, and then I do on, oops, yeah, okay, dog the string, and then on the string, I'm going to get an object. Okay, so let's do, how do I get the first key? I guess it's just like object keys on 0. So that's not gonna return. This might be a problem. So I think this is just a string. I think it's not the actual element, which could be a problem. Let's I use an element as a key, a DOM element as an object key. Someone told me once that you could, so yeah, I thought it'd be cool. But oh. Huh. Okay, so yeah, that's definitely a problem. That's unfortunate. So oh jeez, that sucks. I was really expecting that to work. Okay, so jeez. Okay, so one thing we could do is pass in a selector instead of an element. And then I don't like it, but just hear me out. So here, instead of, I really don't like it. Because what if I just want I just want to listen to the switch on the first element on the page, but I don't have a unique way of selecting it, right? So what, I have to attach an ID to it? That's not great. I want to be able to do document.querySelector and then just pass in that element. Or querySelector all and then get the third one and then pass in that element. And so, okay, but let's say I did pass in a query selector, okay? A selector string. Then I could just match, so I could use that as the key, right? So this would be like the switch element selector, and then down here when I'm triggering the callbacks. Oh yeah, how would this know which selector to pass in? Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's annoying. That ruins this entire plan for this when section. Okay, so I don't know what to do. I could like repurpose. I could redo this, right? So that I could basically rewrite this and then make the value the object. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do here. Yeah. Let's look at this some more. Okay, so now that we know that an element used as an object key is going to be just cast into a string, what can we do? Well, so we could have a list of lists, and each list. Yeah, so we could do pretty much the same thing we're doing here with a list. So we'd have a list of three. Oh man. We could have a list of three things. So it would be like the switch name, the action type, the switch element, and then if I do trigger callbacks and I just call, oh no, so I would call the switch name, the action type, and the switch element. I would test all of the arrays to see that every item in the array matched these, and then I would call it if they all matched. so like if I'm just passing in the switch name here, the array is just going to be the switch name. So then I would just check to see if the switch name matched this switch name, and if it did, then I would trigger the callback that I passed in here. Otherwise, if I, passed in switch name and action type, I would make sure, these both match, these two things, right? So it's pretty similar to what we're already doing. I'm very, very, very annoyed that this didn't end up being, yeah. I guess this like any key was kind of silly. I actually honestly really liked it. I like the way we were looking this stuff up, but it did get a little complicated. So let's rebuild this. Okay, so exciting times. I can't. So I guess the only other thing I can think of is just removing switch element as a possibility, or putting in a selector string there, or oh my god, I could. No, I'm not going to put a piece of JavaScript code in there that can return an element. Oh, it could be that. No, it can. No, it can. Okay. I was thinking about passing in a function here that returns a JavaScript element, but that doesn't make sense because what I'm gonna like convert that into a string and then no. Okay, so I think the code that I'm going to write for this is going to be a lot simpler than this code, so I'm happy about that, and I won't have to use the any key thing. I did kind of like the data structure that this produced. But I can't think of another way around the switch element thing if I can't use it as a key. Because the whole point is that, like, you're at the way I think about it is like objects are like libraries inside of libraries. Like if you went to a library and you got a book out of the library and you opened up that book and you were able to go into that book and then you're in a whole nother library. That's how I think of objects, nested objects, right? So, I mean, that's not actually how I think of nested objects. I just said that on the spot, but it is kind of similar to how I thought of them. So, the whole point of this was that, you go to the first library and you say, hey, I'm looking for, toggle, or sorry, no, I'm looking for switch name, and then it says, okay, here's your book, and you go into that book, you go into this new library, and then you're like, hey, I'm looking for toggle, and it's like, okay, down the hall, to the right, third book, you get that book, you open it up, you go, you go into there, into a brand new library, and it's like, I'm looking for this switch element, and it's just kind of a cool thing that it's just like a straight kind of path, and then like if you go into the first library and you're like, hey, I'm looking for, any book, then it's just gonna they're just gonna give you all the books, right? And then, or at a library, maybe they wouldn't give you all the books if you ask for any book, but you get the point. Maybe any should have been called all instead, right? Oh, it's so sad. Okay, so so I think this code is pretty relegated to the bottom of this file. I don't think, for example, I'm using this auto increment function anywhere else. I don't think I'm using this all callbacks object anywhere else. So yeah, so I can just rewrite this code, and I guess we're going to store this as an object like we were originally planning to. So we'll have like an object. Yeah, we can have three objects. So we'll have like an object with switch name, an object with action type, and an object with switch element. And then here, sorry, down here we'll do the same thing. So when we pass in these, we'll just create a list with 3 objects, and then I think we're just going to use something from Lodash. I think they have something for this. So if I do, I think it's in collections. It's like the includes checks if value is in collection or collection. I want something like overlaps. Let's see, underscore objects and array overlap. How to use intersection. Maybe it's intersection. No. Find where maybe some contains. Shuffle sample 2. Okay, I don't know. I mean, we can write it ourselves, I guess. I kind of wanted to do something clever here, if I'm being honest. Is there a way that we can create a string representation of this that's going to match? No, there's not. Okay. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so first of all, let's make this an array. This is all useless. This is all useless. Okay, so this sucks. Okay. So we delete this. We have all callbacks. We're still going to pass this in as an object. Man, I really, really did like this code. Okay, so that's going to go away. That's going to go away. I hope someone was like, you know, yelling at me from the other side of the screen, just being like, no, you can't use an element as a key. What are you doing? Okay, so yeah, let's delete all this too. Okay, so let's write trigger callbacks first. So trigger callbacks is gonna loop through all callbacks. Okay, wait. What is the final thing is for trigger callbacks is we just want to call the callback function. Okay, so we're gonna all callbacks for each, and we definitely want to go through all of them. And let's just call this all callback data, or like, I don't know. Sorry. Callbacks list, callback data list. Sure. That doesn't, it's fine, whatever. Callback list. That's good. Okay, so now we got callback data, and we want to make sure that for every key in one of these, so these are each going to be a list. So let's just say, like, for example, this is going to be a list of lists, and each one of these is going to have this. And, or wait, no, I said before that each one of these is going to be like an individual object. I'm not sure if this, if this is a good idea, but let's try it, right? Okay. Okay, so for the callback data, we want to loop through it and make sure that each one Okay, so how about this? How about we make sure that we've added the actual callback as the first item, and then we're gonna loop through the callback data sliced at 1, and so if we have 1, 2, 3, when we do slice 1, we're just gonna get the rest of them. And we're just going to say, like, every, geez. Okay, so, like, let's just say, like, objects to match. I'll rename this later. So we'll say, like, objects to match, and this is going to be, like, for example, switch name, action type, switch element, and then we're going to I guess we'll do object keys, objects to match, every, and we'll say object to match, sorry, key name of object to match. I promise I'll rename this. And then we have that. So this gives us the value of each of these. So this is going to be the actual switch name, the actual action type, the actual switch element, and we're going to say this is equal to I'm not really sure why I'm doing it this way. Okay. But I'm going to continue doing it this way. And let's say this is just called params. Now I'll just do params, key name of object match. And then this is going to be like is a match, or like does match, I guess, is matching. And then we're going to say like if is matching callback. Okay, so the idea here is that for this callbacks list, we're going to push in an array that looks like this. And the first element in the array is going to be the callback. Okay, so this is a terrible idea, but it's simpler than our code before, right? So I guess I could just as easily, yeah, okay. So this could just as easily be this. So we push in the object with the keys, yeah, that makes more sense. And then we have callbacks list and the callback data, and we just say like the callback is callback data dot callback, and then either we can like delete callback data dot callback, which wouldn't be a good idea because that's going to be by reference, and we're going to need access to that again if we ever trigger this callback again. So instead what we can say is like if this key name is equal to callback, then return true. And then so we have the callback. We actually don't need to save a reference to it, so we can just do like callback data callback. I really don't like this name, and we don't need to slice it anymore, actually. So we can say like callback data, and then just like key name. And yeah, like that. Okay, so now what we're doing is looping through each one of these callbacks that we passed in, and we're going to see if it matches the parameters that we passed in to trigger callbacks just now, right? So like trigger callbacks is called whenever an on action goes through, an off action goes through, or a toggle action goes through. Let's take on, for example. So someone turns on a switch, this trigger is gonna happen. It's gonna pass in the switch name, the action type, and the switch element. We're not necessarily going to need all of those, right? Because we're going to go through our callback list. We're going to get our, our callback data, and we're going to loop over all the keys in our callback data, which, might include. So yeah, actually, this is optional right now too. So it might include the switch name, it might include action type, it might include switch element. And so we're going to loop through each of those keys, and we're going to just make sure that that key's value is equal to the param value, the value of the same key on the params that we're passing in. And we can just call this like options instead, or like, I don't know, switch data. That's better. Okay, so, and then objects to match is obviously. Yeah. Okay, so now we see if it's matching. If it has a callback, if the key name is callback, boom, we just skip that one. But this is going to be checking that everything returns true. So this is going to check that, if we passed in switch name is going to have to match with the thing that's being triggered here. If action type was passed in up here, then that's going to have to match with the switch data. And if the switch element was passed in, that's going to have to match. And then if it's matching, we're going to get the callback from the callback data, and then we're going to call it. So I guess I'm not like too sad that the other one didn't end up working out, because this code is so much simpler. We made something optional that we were kind of considering making optional before. Obviously we could make it, required by writing a little bit more code. But I actually like that it's optional, because now I can just listen for like an action type if I want. So every time that switch is turned on, I can listen for that if I want. Or I can just listen on a specific switch element. So all of these are optional. The callback is the only one that's required, and I could very easily make that not required by just saying like that, but I'm going to make it required by always calling it. So you're going to get some kind of error in the console if you didn't pass in a callback, which is what I prefer. And yeah, I just think this is much better code. It was just kind of nice writing something complicated before, and fun, Okay, so here, so we got the switch data. Let's just like say what this is. It's that, and that. And type and switch element. I think that makes sense. So now let's test it out. So we can, again, just like make this public so that we can like see if when is working. I mean, it's a very simple function, so it should work. And then trigger callbacks. It seems right. Okay, so if we do this, which is when, we still have the body selected. We do that, and then we rename this. It's called the callback list now. Now we have a list with one object in it. The switch name is dog, the action type is on, the switch element is body, and the callback is our callback function. Okay, so that looks good. If I call another one, yeah, it should add it again, right? I mean, that's what we would want, I think, because the function might be something new. So yeah, we should get both of these in there. And then let's, I don't know, let's try one with cat and off. Obviously this is going to work. So yeah, okay, I mean, all it is pushing this into an array. So I don't know why I'm testing that. But now we can trigger the callbacks. So let's just refresh this. And let's go to this element. So we have sidebar 1. And let's do a real one. So we're going to say sidebar 1, action type is, we don't care about the action type, we just want to listen to whatever it's doing. The element is going to be the one that we're on. Or, we could do, No, let's just do it like that. And then the callback is going to be sidebar one did something. Okay, so now if I expand this, it doesn't work. Oh no. Okay, so trigger callbacks. So this did just turn on 100%. And the reason this isn't working is trigger callbacks is now expecting a switch data with like an object. Okay, so let's do that, 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 and I'm not sure why the callback's here. Okay. Okay. So let's go back up here. We'll copy this. We'll paste it here. The only difference is this is gonna be off. The only difference is this is gonna be toggle. And that should be set. So now if we go here, we'll make sure we've still got the same one selected. We will call when, and now we're going to toggle it. Okay, it still didn't work. Let's make sure that trigger callbacks is being called. So we'll put like a debugger here, and let's do the when. We have the debugger. We have the switch data, sidebar one. Page, if I click on this, yeah, it's the same one we had. Okay, so callback list. Okay, so let's go into this, callback data. Okay, so this is the problem, is that action type and switch element are still defined. I mean, they're set to undefined, but they're being defined when I pass them in like this. So instead, we're going to just do this. And yeah, we're going to make it really clear how simple the function is that we were testing before. Okay, cool. So now we'll refresh. We will run this code again. Oh, and I think you do have to switch back to the elements panel in order to have this be reselected. Otherwise, I think this will be equal to nothing. Right? See, so now it's equal to that. But I think if I refresh this page, it's undefined, yeah. So I have to actually switch the elements panel and back in order for this to be defined. Okay. So we'll do that, and now this. Ooh, so we got two. That's weird. And now we just got one, and now we got two. Okay, wait. Let's try that one more time. So we got two. Oh, and that's because we got one for it turning on and one for it toggling? Is that true? But that shouldn't, no, that shouldn't happen because Oh, okay. So there's a problem here. So in, but then why wouldn't we get 2 for turn off? Okay, let me explain what I think is happening, and then, okay, so what we're doing, we're calling toggle, because the action is toggle. Oh, and then I clicked off. I clicked off. Got it. Okay, so if I refresh, if I do this, and then I click this, what, what happened? Did I delete the console log? What happened? Or, wait, no, the console log's here. Oh, I didn't select the element. Okay, so we got that. We open it this way. We get 2. So now we want to get 2 more. We're not going to click on the close one. We're going to click on the toggle. And we get 2 more. Okay, cool. So whenever toggle's called, you know, it's a little bit stupid. So it activates turn on and turn off, and then that triggers the thing for them. So I don't know, that's not that stupid, right? Let's think for a second. Is that what we would expect? Is that what we would want? So say we're on a page, and all I want to know is like every time this switch turns off, I just want to know. Do I have to listen to toggle as well as off, or do I just want to listen to off? Because if I listen to toggle as well as off, inside of toggle, I could have it like return to me what was the what's the like status of the switch now, and then if it's off, I could also do the thing that I want to do in off. But I think no, in general, I do want to know both, right? So I think toggle should nest turn on and turn off. So maybe it's not that stupid. And then if I want to be explicit, yeah, all I have to do is just listen for something explicitly. So I would just have to do like, I think is it switch action? It's action type. Why is it action type? Why can't it just be switch action? Because the other ones are called switch action. Okay. Oh, awful. Okay. Switch action. Okay. So now let's do this. Switch action, and let's do toggle, and then I click this, I get 1. I click this, I should get none because it's just off. So I get those. Now, what if I want to say sidebar 1 turned off? Well, let's not even listen on the element, and let's just listen for off. Okay, so that should just do the old one. Now I click this one, and it turns on. That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm getting the turned off when I toggle it off. I think that's good. I think that's perfect. So I think that's all for now. This was, a really good codecast. I got to, rewrite our when function. It went from a lot of lines, like 60 lines and a lot of nested for loops, and actually, now that I look back on it, a lot of really stupid code, down to this, right? So our when function got a lot shorter, our trigger callbacks got a ton shorter. I feel good about this. Yeah, it feels pretty cool. So I'm glad I got rid of it. Something I'm not doing right now is sending any data to the callback. So that's probably something I want to do. And I think I'll like send the switch data just from the truth, because that's like sent to me from the trigger callbacks, which is just the name, the action, and the element. And so, yeah, let's just check real quick. So if I So this should be refreshed. So if I do off, and then I console log arguments, the first argument here, well, it's going to give me switch action off. So that's a shame, right? Because what I would love to see there is switch action toggle. You know, even though, like, I know it's, I don't know, it's difficult. So like I would actually want both. I would want like the real action, and then like the, you know, like what was the action on the trigger button, and then also like what was the result of that. So like if that trigger button is toggle, I want to know that. But if that results in the switch turning off, I want to know that. But now all I'm getting is the final result for this case. Whereas if I listen on toggle, I'll get that. But this is fine for now. I don't need anything more advanced right now. So let's just make sure I don't have any console logs in here or debuggers. Okay, so that's good. And let's check off our to-do. Oh, we didn't test when. So we just rebuilt when. Rebuild when. Okay, so that's done. And I guess we could say like, because elements, DOM elements, can't be used as object keys. And that's fine. You know, I mean, it ended up for the best. So I'm happy about that. Okay, so we got that, We did a bunch of stuff here. Like, look at all that code that was removed. Well, this was just a documentation string. But, like, we removed this function, which I actually really liked. Hopefully I get to add that back at some point. We removed this, which was like a lot of documentation to be fair, but we cut this down to one line, which is pretty cool. And then all of this like nested, like, you know, trials and trails, we cut down to just you know, a few lines. I think we cut this in like into a fifth of the code that it was. Okay, so cool. So let's close out for the day, and we can just put that in our Git log. And thank you so much for watching. I look forward to next time when we can test the when function that now works. And let's see what else we'll be doing. Oh, replacing the old Widget.js. So that you'll get to see how the old Widget.js code was working in Artisfy, and we're going to replace all of it, and then we're going to spec out a new library, other than, you know, one that kind of adds on to switch.js. It's a lot simpler, so it should only take, you know, a day or two to build. And then we're going to write a new library, kind of from scratch, kind of not. It's like halfway there, halfway written, but it's another really powerful library. It's probably going to take around the same amount of time as switch.js to build, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to save me a lot of time in the long run, and hopefully, eventually, it saves a lot of people a lot of time. Okay, so that's it for now, and I know that's like the 7th time I've said that. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.